Hello, welcome to our third, because this is the first week we're doing this, Morning Lives with me, Melissa Agnes. So this is a daily space to help leaders stay grounded in your power and your vision, which can be very hard to do in our world. If you are doing work that matters, if you are trying to make positive impact in some way, shape, or form in this world, that means that you are doing work that matters. And if you're looking for steadiness, if you're looking for clarity, if you're looking for connection, as you step into what you're called to do and to show up as the best version of yourself, then this is why I show up every day, is to support you in that. So every morning we go for a maximum of 30 minutes. The goal is 20 though. Every morning I share one truth, one thing that is real and true, that will probably make you think, will hopefully make you think, and might, not always be the easiest thing to hear, but it's always meant, like today now might not always be the easiest thing to hear, what I want to share with you today, but it comes from love, and it comes in the interest of helping us all truly remember what's real and step into the highest version of ourselves, our highest potential. And then following that, we do about a 10-minute drop-in, which is a somatic breathwork practice, because it's so important to not just hear something intellectually and understand it from an intellectual standpoint. If we truly want to embody and step into our next growth, our next power, our next all the things, then we have to entrain our bodies on how to do that. So that's what the somatic practice is for. I'm just going to go and see. Oh, I see you guys on LinkedIn. Thank you. Lovely. If the audio ever cuts out, please let me know. Thanks for letting me know, guys. Okay, so I apologize in advance. My energy's a little bit low today. It's been a morning, guys. I don't know about you. Feel free to share with me how your morning's been. So my truth that I want to share with you today was inspired last night as I was looking at different things happening in the news and around the world and just kind of everywhere. And so the truth is that it's kind of twofold. One, control is an illusion. Control is an illusion. And more than that, control is a tool of fear. This might not be a comfortable thing to hear, but if it's not comfortable, invitation to stay with me, okay? So, and fear is normal, so it's not a bad thing. It's just recognizing what control actually is. Control is an illusion, and control is a tool of fear. When we want to control something, right, whether it's something or someone or a situation or an outcome, but we want to control it, if we're being very honest with ourselves, there is a part of ourselves that is scared, that feels unsafe on some level, and scared of the wrong outcome, scared of essentially losing control. And when we know what we know about the ego is, well, a whole lot of things, but one of the things I'll talk about the ego is that it's designed to keep us alive, right? My ego represents Melissa Agnes, is Melissa Agnes, and part of its job is to keep Melissa Agnes alive. And so the ego likes to feel like it's in control, because if it's in control, Melissa Agnes, I get to stay alive, right? And the same is true for all of us. So when we find ourselves grasping for control at control, there's something in our system that is fearful of or feels unsafe. Therefore, if you feel unsafe, there's fear there, right? Is fearful of, in some way, very, very unconsciously and very deeply, not being able to stay alive. This goes back to a little bit about what we talked about on Monday, right? So when we enter into the unknown, when there's a new situation or a new opportunity or just something that is new, our ego can't discern between what is dangerous and will actually kill us or harm us, and what is simply uncomfortable because it's new territory, it's new terrain, it's the unknown. And so on Monday we looked at how with the unknown, if the unknown was a coin, right, on one side of that coin is fear, because the ego doesn't like to not know. It wants to know, it wants to feel safe, it wants to feel in control. And when there's unknowns, that's hard to do because we don't know. So on one side of that coin is fear. On the other side of that coin is infinite potentiality. And that's where we want to believe in and get to, so that we can, because that's true, so we actually can live in infinite potentiality. If you want more about that, go see Monday's recording. So all of this to say is that when we're in a state and when we recognize that there's a part of us that wants to control ourselves, the situation, an outcome, another person, whatever it might be, if we are being real with ourselves, two things. One, control is an illusion, because you could have all of the best thought out plans, the most strategic plans that in the past maybe even they've worked. And you actually have no control over like the circumstances. Maybe the economy changes. Maybe, another factor comes in and just wipes that plan out. So control truly is an illusion. And control is an illusion that is a tool of fear. So that's my truth that I want to share with you today. And in that, I think there's two ways to kind of really utilize this truth, right? Is one, when you're in a moment where you are seeking, you feel your system grasping to have control or to gain control, seeking control. Some people call themselves a control freak, like whatever that looks like, remember, and the goal here is to sit with yourself and go, okay, what part of me feels unsafe right now in this unknown, in this new variable, in this new situation, opportunity, whatever, and what's the fear? Sit with the fear rather than continuing to feed the ego and its need for feeling in control. So that's the first piece, and that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to be able to actually look at ourselves in that way, because it's not always comfortable. It doesn't always feel like it's in the most positive light, right? But one of the things that I will constantly say is there's no place for judgment in this. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't be a human being, you wouldn't be alive. So your ego is this big, beautiful thing that's designed to protect you. Where we want to make sure that we're kind of like being in check with it is, when does it not serve us because it's afraid, right? So when one of those indicators are, if you are sensing that you want to have control over something, it's time to stop, it's time to go inward, it's time to say, okay, what am I afraid of? And get with that part of you, not the control over somebody else or the power over or the control for something, okay? That's the distortion. Getting with yourself is the truth and is the hard work and is the work of a true visionary leader. So that's the one side of the thing, of what I want to share. The other side of control being an illusion, control being a tool of fear, is recognizing this for what it is in other people. There's a lot of people in our world that we will meet in our days, that we will do business with, that we are governed by, whatever the case may be. There's going to show up often this sense of seeking control over. If you can recognize within yourself that when you are seeking to have control over something, that you are actually in fear, then you can also remember that the same is true for that person. So a practice, and this is a practice in compassion, it's a practice in true listening, and it's a practice in understanding deeper levels of situations of human nature, etc., so that you can actually lead through this hardship or these challenges, is recognizing that the person seeking control is actually a system, their nervous system, their system is in fear. And with that, sometimes we can't do anything about that, right? Sometimes it's just about recognizing this, acknowledging this, getting to a point. Sometimes this is really hard to do, because when somebody is seeking control over, especially, it could be really hard to show that person compassion. It can be. However, if we can remember that their system is in fear, maybe we can practice having more compassion for the fact that that person is actually in fear. They may not be going about it the best way, right? But control is an illusion that the majority of our world has subscribed to. So it's not necessarily their fault. So all of this is just morning truths. One truth: control is a tool of fear, and control is an illusion. And the more that you can kind of grasp that, the more we get to look at ourselves, step into the true, the biggest version, the best version of who we want to be. Because when we're seeking control, we can step back and go, okay, what part of me is in fear here? How do I work that and show up differently as a leader? And then when other people are doing the same thing, we can look and say, okay, isn't this interesting? They're trying so hard to have control of this situation. They are really in fear. Isn't that interesting? And can you open up your heart a little bit and just send a little bit of love and compassion to the system that's in fear and grasping for safety? So that is my morning truth for you this morning. I'd be so curious. One, if you have questions, please share them. Two, I'd be so curious to hear about how that lands with you. Does that trigger something in you? Did that create resistance where you're like, what is this woman talking about, right? Or were there more ahas? Or is it more reflection? All of that is welcome, and all of that is real, and all of that can also be possible all at the same time. So it is, Justin says on LinkedIn, it's a practice in empathy. It's absolutely a practice in empathy of ourselves and practice of empathy in other people. And what's beautiful about this, in my opinion, is when we practice that empathy with ourselves, we get to face our fears and we get to surrender and come at a situation and lead a situation in a completely different way that actually creates deeper connection and better results. When we practice this empathy with others, it can help us, because if somebody really is trying to have power over and seeking control, and there's some really good examples in the world of people and entities trying to have power over and doing horrible things to have control. So that's really hard sometimes to not judge or to not have ill will or ill feelings towards, right? So it's a practice in empathy, to Justin's point, on how can we just see it a little bit differently. How can we, yes, we can disagree with it 1000%. We can say, I don't stand for this, doesn't align with my core values, this is not what I believe in, this is not what I agree with. And what else is true, because things aren't binary. What else is true is that how could we just kind of open up our minds a little bit and go, oh, how deeply are these people or these entities in fear? And even just from a philosophical standpoint, to kind of play a game of like, what might they be afraid of? They're probably afraid of change because the ego doesn't like change, right? Like they're scared of losing power. They're scared of all these things that are also illusions. So yeah, it's a practice in empathy for self and for others. And this practice doesn't mean that you agree with people's choices or actions. It just means that you're choosing to understand things more deeply, and you're choosing to widen your perspective so that you can lead better. Okay, so thank you for that, Justin. The practice that I want to do today is the somatic practice that I want us to do. Every day, the somatic practice is simply, at its basis, to help us start our day in alignment and in coherence. So when we're in coherence, our brain waves, right? Our thoughts, our heart rhythms, our energy, it's all in alignment, which means that we get to show up with clarity. We get access to our prefrontal cortex. We get to show up without cortisol and adrenaline surging through our veins. We get to show up in a good place to start the day. So that's at the foundation, the purpose for doing this 10-minute practice with me. And then every day, I'm probably going to take us on a journey based on what I talked about, the truth. So today would be an invitation during the practice to take a moment now to think about, where is an area in your world or in your life that you, because we can't start with other people, we have to start with ourselves, so that you seek to have control over. Maybe it's your agenda, right? It could be anything. It could be big, little, small, doesn't matter, anything. Maybe it's control over the behaviors of somebody else that you are not, somebody who is somebody else. It could be a situation at work. It could be anything. What is one area in your life that you seek to have control over? And during this practice, I'm going to invite you just to kind of feel into what it could feel like to get with the why behind that seeking for control. What is the fear? And it's wild, guys. Like, the fears don't have to be logical to our brain. They don't have to be rational, right? When I say, like, I remember, I'll just tell this story really, really quickly. I used to not be able to tell somebody that they hurt me, that my feelings were hurt. There was something that would be blocked. And I remember in my relationship with Aaron, way at the beginning, he did something that hurt me. And we were sitting at my counter, my kitchen counter, and I was trying with all of my might to tell him what hurt me. It wasn't a big deal, but I wanted to share it with him. And he was sitting there and he was waiting. And he took my hand and he said, "What do you think is going to happen after you tell me this?" And everything in my body, not my words, everything in my body screamed a fate worse than death. That's what's going to happen. That's irrational. That's wild. But that doesn't make it any less real in my body that prevented me to have open communication with him and open up my heart and be vulnerable in that moment, right? So we can let what we resist persist, as the saying goes, or we can get with it. So invitation to think of something that you feel like you want to have control over, that shows up regularly for you, and let's just get into our bodies and just explore it without judgment. What do we think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if you were to relinquish control of this thing or relinquish seeking control over this thing? And find in your body what it feels like. Do you tense up? Do you feel at ease? Like, whatever it is. Okay, let's go on this journey. So for those of you who are doing this with me, as always, please don't be driving. Please don't be walking in front of cars or with people on the sidewalks. This is something to do, and you can come back to it when you have the time to do when you have space to just sit. And we're going to take 10 minutes. That's it. 10 minutes to set your day up right in coherence and to start this little practice of exploration of your own system and seeking control. So, taking a moment to kind of just settle into the place that you're in. So if you're in a seat, if you're on a couch, if you're on the floor, wherever you might be. And when you're ready, shutting down your eyes or softening your gaze, whatever feels most comfortable to you. And if you feel silly, if you're in a cubicle or in an office space and other people can see you and you feel silly, the thing that I will constantly remind you is when you do this practice for yourself, when you gift yourself this 10 minutes and you show up differently in more alignment, with more clarity, with more energy, with higher vibrations, people will start to wonder what it is you're doing in the morning for those 10 minutes, and they're going to want in. So for the part of you that might feel a little silly to do this, let it know that you'll be thankful for it. Okay. So we're going to do just halo active breathing, which is in through the nose and out through the mouth. Settling into your seat, getting comfortable, getting still. Clarity and answers come when we're still. And taking a moment to bring your consciousness, bring your awareness down to the sensation of feeling the seat that is below you, that you are sitting on or leaning on or however you're placed. If you were to just sit back into it and relax your body into it, does it have you? Can it hold you? The answer is likely yes, which means that you are safe right now to be still, to be held, to be present with yourself, to let go of all distractions for solely 10 minutes, to tell your mind, thank you so much for being so present and so on all the time. But right now you get to take a break. And in 10 minutes, I will give you the floor again. Starting with that breath, so in through the nose. Out through the mouth. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. And now bringing your attention to your heart space. Sometimes it helps to put a hand where you want to bring your attention to. So if you feel called, bring a hand to your heart. And with every breath in and out, imagine with every inhale, so you're taking an inhale through your nose, and you're imagining your heart space opening up. So you feel your chest cavity opening, you just feel expansive. And with every exhale, you're sinking more deeply and more safely into the safety and the relaxation of your body on the chair that is strong enough to hold you. So taking a few moments to just be present with that heart space in through the heart, opening up and expanding, exhaling, sinking more deeply and deeply into your body. And if you have thoughts that become present, that's perfectly natural, that's perfectly fine, zero judgment. It's just about bringing your saying thank you for that thought and coming back to the breath and to your heart. It's a practice. And when you're ready, bring to mind that thing that you thought of earlier that you seek to have control over. An area in your life where you constantly find yourself trying to control. And when you think of that thing, what happens in your body? Do you feel tense? Do you tighten up? Do you contract? Do you get excited? No wrong answer, just what is. And as you continue to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, when you think about that thing that you seek to control, ask yourself quietly, when I seek to control this, what am I afraid of? If I didn't control this, what would happen? And just notice what you notice. Maybe you hear an answer. Maybe you feel a sensation. Maybe your voice kicks in and or your brain kicks in and starts getting loud. Whatever becomes present for you, just notice it. Think of it as an experiment of exploration. Just notice it. Keep that breath flowing. And if you were to decide to relinquish the seeking of control over that thing by 2%, so you surrender. The opposite of control is surrender. You surrender to not having control by 2%. What does that feel like in your body when you think of doing that, when you feel into doing that? Just notice what you notice. Can you find safety in your body right now. If there's a part of you that's activated, that's kicking up, that's loud, that's fearful, because we're talking about something that goes very deep for so many of us, just come back to your breath and come back to that heart-centered breath. Inhale in, opening up the heart. Exhale, sinking more deeply into your body, where you are safe. You are safe to breathe. You are safe to feel. You are safe to explore. And coming back to your heart, maybe putting a hand on your heart. And let's do a moment of gratitude. Gratitude for your ego that works tirelessly to keep you protected and safe and alive. And gratitude for your body, your ability to get centered, to get aligned, to get into coherence, and in doing so, your ability to remember that control is an illusion. Control is a tool of fear. And by getting into our bodies, we can find safety even when we feel out of control. That is a gift that our body gives to us. And it's accessible to you anytime you remember to choose it. Last moment of breath, last moment of gratitude, coming back to your heart. And when you're ready, wiggling your fingers and your toes. And coming back to the room, coming back to the moment. How was that for you? If you feel called, if you feel brave enough to share anything that may have stirred or shown up, I would love to hear it, whether it's in the chat where you're watching from or DMing me privately. I'm always happy to hear it. All right, I will send you on your day, hopefully feeling regulated, feeling grounded, feeling aligned, with the remembrance that control is an illusion, and control is a tool of fear. So when you find your system seeking to control over things, have control over things, there is a deeper part of you that feels unsafe and that is scared. And the best way to show up as a visionary leader with connection on your heart and your vision, in alignment with your vision and your mission, is to have the courage to notice when that shows up, notice when control shows up, and to take some moments to breathe and to get with the fear so that you can breathe through it, you can acknowledge it. What we resist persists, so let's not resist it. And you can show up the best version of yourself as you lead your mission forward. All right, I am wishing you a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for another morning live with Melissa Agnes. Bye.